Hi, good morning everyone, and welcome to the Introduce Investor Days. Today we have 38 companies presenting with us, and we go on until 6 o'clock tonight. But first here we have Sonny Mirborn from Alcadon, the CEO, and he will give us about a 20-minute presentation, and we'll follow that up with a short Q&A. So without further ado, please go ahead, Sonny.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sonny Mirborn. I'm the CEO of Alcadon Group. Thank you for this opportunity to describe us a bit more in detail. Now, to start off, I could say that Alcadon is a distributor and developer of complete systems for professional network infrastructure. That means basically everything that you need for the transfer of data to occur. We were founded in 1988, and since then we've had a pretty strong market position in our field of operations. Next slide, please. I think this is a good picture to show what we are actually doing. Now, our products and systems are basically enabling transfer of data and thus enabling digitalization as a whole. Now, these products are needed for data to be transferred between cities, between buildings, and also within buildings to ensure that you have a connectivity when you are inside a building. To a large extent, you don't see our products from day to day. These are, to a large extent, copper and fiber cable-based systems that are behind the walls of hospitals, offices, schools, or in data centers, or even underground connecting cities. So basically, you don't see our products that much. In our largest business area, fiber network, we offer complete systems for large distances to connect, for example, cities. This concerns broadband, FTTH, 5G, for example. So this is basically the transfer of data across large distances and mostly fiber cable related, of course, with all the accessories needed for that. In commercial networks, this is the old core of Alcadon from when we started off in 1988. This is where we offer mainly structured cabling systems. It's copper and fiber cables and all the accessories you need to enable data transfer within all types of buildings. This is basically when you go to your office and you're using a Wi-Fi solution and internet wherever you are. This is basically due to these type of products. We also have a smaller business area called residential network. This is where we offer complete solutions for marrying together electricity and data. Smart home solutions, most of you know about. A rather new business area formed by acquisitions the last few years. But we also offer services and training where we offer instruments. We offer installers training courses, certification courses, mostly to use our own system, European cabling system. Where installers pay to go through a 2-day education course with us and get a certification that they are able to install our own systems. So this is basically what we do, and mostly it is about enabling the transfer of data, basically. Next slide, please. Okay, a summary of who we are. We're present across the Nordics, but also in Germany. Sweden is still our largest geographical presence. As you can see, we have done a few acquisitions the last few years since 2016 when we were listed on First North. We acquired 4 companies, adding quite a significant amount of profitable turnover. But we also did strengthen our customer offers and adding competence to the group. And I would have to say that acquisitions have always been and still is a very important part of our strategy. I think that to a large extent, we are not considered a serial acquirer due to us making larger acquisitions compared to our size. And we might continue to do that, but we also look for rather small acquisitions to add something, for example, a geographical presence or a customer relationship that we do not have today. So looking at our ownership also, we have over 5,000 shareholders, but the largest ones are Atanase and the Spiltan. And I think worth mentioning here is that our second largest ownership group is the employees of Alcadon. I mean, in my view, ownership is the strongest incentive you have, and we have very dedicated and motivated, engaged employees, and I think that the high level of ownership among our employees is one of the main reasons for that, definitely. Otherwise, you see that we are approaching 700 million SEK in net sales. We are profitable. We have always been profitable, always shown a strong profitability, among the highest in our industry since over 25 years back. Next slide, please. Let's do a deep dive in our most recent acquisition, 66 International. For us, this was truly a transforming acquisition. At a very reasonable price, we added a very profitable company with a strong position in the premium segment. And of course, important for us was also to gain access to important growth markets in Germany and Denmark. And 66 is a distributor, but they have their own configured solutions as well, just like Alcadon. They're mainly present in the FTTX area, or broadband connectivity solutions and data centers. So I think that, to me, this is an example of the kind of acquisition that we want to do. It's a sound logic, it's a strategic and a financial rationale, and we simply become a stronger company. The strategic fit is fantastic for us. We started off really, really well, and 66 started off really well as part of Alcadon. They showed over 60% top line growth in Q1, and we're already preparing to share distribution rights across our geographical markets. And we also want to launch ECS, our own brand, in Denmark. So things are proceeding according to plan. And this integration that we are fulfilling right now, it basically started off during our acquisition discussions that started well over a year ago. Next slide, please. A quick look at our management team and our board of directors. I'd say that this is well balanced. Our group management have a lot of experience, of course, in the network infrastructure industry, but we also have representatives from all our geographical areas except Germany today. We have representatives from all major acquisitions and a very interesting background of a lot of our leaders in the company. In our board of directors, we have not only expertise in network infrastructure and IT, but also in M&A and finance, and in industrial management and sales. And our board of directors, I mean, they come from leading positions of both Alcadon and our chairman, of course, but also BE Group, Atlas Copco, Munters, Microsoft, for example. So I think this is a well-balanced, strong governance structure, I would say. Next slide, please. Taking a quick glance at our business model. Now, I usually say that our business model has not changed since the mid-90s. It's quite stable. It's proven quite stable. The offer to our customers is quite distinct. And let's start off with the sourcing that we have. I mean, for one thing that is very important to say is that we are developing our own systems, our own solutions. ECS and DC Line are two main brands that we work with. These are systems that we have developed ourselves. About 10% of the staff of Alcadon are working with product development and product management. We take existing global solutions and we locally adapt them to our local markets. We do not have our own manufacturing capability. The manufacturing market, the market for manufacturing of the components of these systems globally is quite competitive. So basically, there's no reason as to why we should not outsource this manufacturing capacity, which works very well. We have manufacturing in several parts of the world today. On the other hand, 70% of our sourcing is products and solutions from global market leaders. These are companies investing millions of dollars in R&D every year in developing the solutions for the future. So having a cooperation with them offers us the opportunity to never miss a technological development, for example. And these are very well-renowned companies. In total, we have over 200 suppliers, so we are very well covered in this area. And I like this model because when you have a mix of professional distribution where you represent a globally leading company in your own markets. And when you have your own product development, you have a very nice mix that gives you flexibility and a differentiated offer. But in essence, everything we do is to be a competence center within the premium segment of our markets. We make solutions to specifications, we customize solutions. We do it specifically for data centers, structured cabling systems, smart homes, for industry. So within a very narrow niche, we are a very broad player with a very broad offering. Looking at our customer base, you can say we have a lot of customers, over 2,800. We are not that dependent on any one large customers. It's quite spread over a lot of smaller customers today, our sales. I'd say that we have a very high degree of customer loyalty. Over 90% of our customers have bought products and solutions from us regularly, on a regular basis, since 10 or 15 years back. So I think this is, for us, a sign that we're doing something right, of course. You see some example of our customers here, like Instalco, Norlys, Bravida, Cygate, Transtema, Assemblin. So it's basically larger installers, it's operators, telecom operators, it's data center providers, construction companies. So it's a very wide area of customers, I would say. Competition-wise, I'd say that we compete with small niche distributors, often having solely one distribution relationship that they are focused on their local markets. And no own product development, or on the other hand, large international wholesalers offering mainly logistical solutions. So I think we found a sweet spot in the market. Next slide, please. Let's look a little bit about the market and start with fiber networks, our largest business area today. It's also called, to a lot of people, FTTX. I would say that there are some obvious megatrends supporting growth in this area. I mean, you're likely all familiar with terms like Internet of Things, smart homes, smart factories, and services on demand. The implication of these megatrends in society as a whole is that the amount of data is increasing a lot. You're talking about 30 to 40% a year the coming 5 years. That might as well increase exponentially over time as well. Now, to handle these increasing amounts of data, you need a strong FTTH network, a strong broadband rollout. You need 5G. I mean, fiber to the home is to a large extent affected by government-induced FTTH targets. There are targets today in Europe for 2025 and for 2030 in most countries, for example. And with 5G, what most people do not know is that except handling a very large amount of data, a 5G base station or antenna has a shorter range than a 4G antenna. So basically you need a lot more 5G base stations or antennas than you did with the 4G rollout. And every base station and antenna needs fiber. So it's an enormous amount of fiber needed for the 5G rollout, or at least for a complete 5G rollout. We're talking about 2 to 16 times more fiber compared to FTTH or the 4G rollout. What we can also see is that it's a very interesting study today. If you look at FTTH Council Europe's webpage, where you can see that they did a study of a copper switch-off trend. What happens in a society when a society is moving towards fiber? And there are some quite interesting positive impacts of doing that has enabled governments to argument for moving towards fiber to a larger extent. And these, I mean, an FTTH target, that's a moving target. You have population growth, you have construction activity, you have technological development. A lot of the fiber rollout today in Sweden, for example, that's replacing fiber that was added 8 or 10 years ago. So something new is happening all the time. We did a deep dive in some of the markets in Europe and of course in our own markets where we are present today. If you look at Sweden, we have homes passed of 86% or FTTH subscriptions 62%. So it's a quite strong FTTH build out that we've had in Sweden. But the rural areas in Sweden, the coverage there is only 40%. So there's over 30% of the total investments remaining to reach the government targets by 2025. And that's a lot of money. So Sweden for us is still a very, very interesting market in this circumstance. And of course, Norway and Denmark somewhere in between. But if we take a deep dive into Germany, that's perhaps together with the UK, one of the most interesting markets in Europe today. There we have had a very strong growth the last few years. And the expected growth in homes passed is over 700% the next 5 years. Today, it's the highest growth rate in Europe the last few months, or the last 12 months. And it's also the most homes left in Europe to receive fiber. So Germany for us is an extremely interesting market. But so is also Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So we have a very nice market for a long time there. Next slide, please. Looking at our business area commercial networks, as with fiber networks, this area is also affected a lot by 5G, IoT, and increased volumes of data, of course. And what we should remember here is that 80% of the bandwidth is used indoors. So for connectivity to work indoors in the future, the demands on the systems the cabling system is becoming more and more important. You have more and more wireless devices, more access points, and this makes this a very interesting market the coming 10 years. Now, if you look at what happened in structured cabling system the last 5 years, you've had a growth in Europe of about 7% a year, and that growth is expected to continue. It might increase, but it's a minimum of 7% that we will see. If you looked at European cabling system, our own developed system, the last 12 years we have grown with about 7% a year as well. And we have a very strong position in the premium segment. So it's not anything strange that we have grown with the market rate. But data centers, at least for us, co-location and enterprise, that's a very interesting market segment where we have started to focus a lot during 2020. This is an area where you expect a growth the coming years of about 10 to 25% a year. We grew with about 40% from rather low levels in 2020. So our endeavors here to focus on this market has paid you, and it's been very good for us, and we hope for it to still be in the future. Next slide, please. A quick look at our financials. I mean, we have been affected by the pandemic as well as logistical issues during Q1. It has impacted mainly our top line in Sweden and Norway during 2020, of course, but also Q1. It hasn't been a major issue for us. We have focused on increasing our gross margins. We have focused on our cash flow, on our OPEX efficiency, and we did manage to have a very nice profit growth or EBIT growth during 2020 of close to 40%. And in Q1, we grew our profits with about 72%. About 14% of that was organic. So we're happy to say that the last 5 quarters we have grown our profit level organically, and now we added a very interesting acquisition, of course. So that's really interesting for us. We did manage to reduce OPEX with efficiency improvements, and our operating margins have continued to increase at a very nice pace, I would have to say. But I also would like to focus on our cash flow. We had an extremely strong cash flow in Q1. We have focused a lot on efficiency measurement to increase cash flow in the future and gain more resources to do acquisitions. So I'd like to summarize this with saying that we have definitely carried out some successful measures to increase profitability, and we have a nice platform to grow now, and grow further, and also to do acquisitions, I would have to say. Next slide, please. To summarize why we are an interesting company, I'd have to say that, I mean, we are affected by macro trends, especially in terms of digitalization. We have a proven business model. We've always been profitable. We have a very loyal customer base. We are an acquirer, a market leader in our segments. So as I write here, we're trying to leveraging on this history, and I would have to say that our journey has just started. So I hope you will follow us and see what we are able to achieve within the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you for a very good presentation, Sonny. And as you said, you gained access to the German market, which is really exciting now through the acquisition of 6X. But you also mentioned UK, and I think Italy looks exciting as well. Would you be able to reach these markets organically, or do you have to do M&A to reach them? And then also, are you interested in actually entering these new markets?
I'd say we are definitely interested in becoming more of a European player. Definitely, I think that the time has passed when we focused only on the Nordic region. Definitely, it is difficult to gain access to some of these markets just organically. So I think that our primary means to grow in new geographical markets would be acquisitions, and we would focus on companies that we already know very well, that we have some kind of relationship with, to reduce risk and also get some traction rather quickly, of course, in the markets. But the answer to your question is yes, we are extremely interested in moving to new geographical markets.
Okay, perfect. And then sort of continuing on the geographical theme, now in Q1 and here, the Swedish and Norway looked a bit weaker, and then maybe Denmark and Germany was a bit stronger. But what's sort of going on here in the short term here on these markets?
You could say that since November, the pandemic hit us really hard in Sweden and Norway, mainly due to a lot of installation projects just came to a halt. A lot of people, I think, became tired of what is happening now with the pandemic and said that we're going to wait a few months for the projects to start. I'd say the most important thing for us was that we haven't lost any market shares. We just followed the market, so to speak. In fiber networks, it's been mostly a case of government subsidies. I think the application period ended in May 17th or something like that. So a lot of projects will probably start during the autumn. So it's been like a perfect storm that ended up with a global logistical problem. I mean, we had a ship stuck in the Suez Canal. Our ship was just behind it with our containers. So we lost some millions in turnover just due to that fact. And we're not a wholesaler, so we don't keep very strong levels of inventory. We are not working just in time, of course, but we are affected by global logistical issues, definitely.
And perfect. And you also made some changes since you became CEO, and it seems like most things are in place right now, and we've kind of seen that in earnings. But when you guys in management still sort of allocate your time now, are you still focusing and seeing things you could improve sort of internally, perhaps also with the integration of 6X, or is the focus fully on growing right now and maybe looking at M&A?
We have, of course, a strong focus on organic growth. I mean, we are doing a reformation of our sales team in Sweden, and we just carried it out in Norway. So we have a lot of focus on that, of course. Growth is always on our mind, so to speak. We have some more efficiency improvements to do. We come a far way, I would have to say, in improving our gross margins, which was a target that I set out when I started, that if you are in the premium segment, you should definitely be able to have higher margins than Alcadon had in 2018 and 19. And I think we have achieved that. We focused also a lot, as you said, on the efficiency improvement on a new central warehouse. So we have much more to do, definitely. But we are now in a place where we could leverage on what we have already done by doing acquisitions and by focusing on organic growth. Then, of course, when you do a large acquisition that, like we did, you have to focus on the integration efforts, but they go hand in hand with our growth initiatives, I would have to say.
Perfect. And then lastly, a question I know you get a lot and might be tired of, but we've been talking a lot about 5G for some time now, and it has sort of been delayed, but now with the sort of 5G auction having taken place in Sweden, do you see this taking off anytime soon?
I would have to say that the operators started with transferring their 4G antennas or base stations to 5G base stations, and we are developing solutions there together with one of the operators. So we have followed that market quite closely, I would have to say, but the large volumes of fiber, it has started, and we've had some project with private players and city networks that have started to prepare for 5G by rolling out fiber. So some of the volumes that you have already seen are related to 5G, but the market has not really kicked off yet. And I think it will take some more time before that to happen, and I think it will occur over a rather long period of time and go hand in hand with the FTTH deployment. That's what I believe.
Thank you very much, Sonny. And that's all we have from Alcadon today. So thank you very much, Sonny, and also thank you to everyone listening in to this presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.